Good morning, everyone. Friday af. Why am I saying Friday afternoon? Ugh. Anyway, that's the way my brain has been lately. So, um, hi everyone. I thought I would put together a video because I just was watching a BBC interview with King Charles, um, and he was talking about environmentalism. And I'm on TikTok a lot, and I've seen a lot of hating on the royal family. And some of that is justified. I'm not a royalist, I'm an American, um, but I've always been a fan of Princess Diana. I find that whole situation enormously tragic, and I have my own conspiracy theories about her death. Um, I think she was murdered. Anyway, so how do we and people are just like, oh, they're evil reptilian monsters, right? And there's all this gotcha stuff with Charles, and you know the pen fiasco and the whole stuff, like, and now there's all this stuff about Harry not wearing his military uniform. I mean, there's just all this weird stuff, and then of course there's justifiable stuff about Andrew, right? Like, okay, I mean, yeah, he was a pedophile. And there's questionable stuff, that a lot of stuff that the royal family, and we could get into a whole big discussion about whether or not, pardon me, that's something in my throat. We could get into a whole big discussion about the validity of the monarchy and royalism, and but that's not really going to be what this video is about. I have my opinions, and maybe I will share them at a later time. But um, so I know that King Charles, I usually just say Charles, so I'm just going to say Charles instead of King Charles because that's a mouthful. I remember several years ago, maybe now, a documentary about Charles, and they were trying to definitely portray him as this buffoonish, weird, out of touch, strange person, right? Of all of his eccentricities and other stuff. And I started to watch it because I was like, I'll see what. And at the end, I actually gained an immense amount of appreciation and respect for Charles, rather than going, oh my God, he's this weirdo, prince. What the hell, which they were trying to sell. And I just started watching a BBC interview, and he was talking about his environmental position. And then before that, this morning, I was on TikTok, and there was actually a very interesting TikTok story about the royal beekeeper. And I'll talk maybe a little bit about that, and maybe share that to this channel. Basically, there's a royal beekeeper, and the job of this royal beekeeper, apart from like taking care of the bees, is to inform the bees by knocking on, I think they said knocking on the hives and telling them that the queen had died. And which sounds very odd, right? And that they were saying, well, we'll see if King Charles keeps this practice, right? And there's this whole thing about that, like the Celtic custom of informing the bees of, this is your master has died, you have a new master. That, I mean, that's what she was saying. That's the words that the royal beekeeper apparently says to the beehives. He goes around to all the beehives and states this. And it's not a joke. It really has happened. It's based upon some Celtic tradition. And I thought, that's interesting, because I thought, is this a joke? Like, are you just trying to like play one on me? And no, it isn't. It actually is a tradition. It's a lot of people do it. And I shared it with my cousin who is a beekeeper. So I don't know if he knows about this or not. So, but they posted the question, well, I wonder if King Charles might, of course he will, because he's a big environmentalist. And people had stated that in the comments. But so this BBC interview with Charles was from about a year ago. And they were talking about climate change, and he was talking about very esoteric attitudes he's got about the environment. I mean, he believes that nature is alive and that we have a connection to it as human beings, and, very heady stuff, you know. He cares about the environment. And a lot of the stuff that I've heard, just peripherally about his views and his attitudes have been portrayed as this weird, crazy, oh my God. And I'm thinking, actually, I kind of relate to that. I respect that. I respect this very spiritual connection to the environment. I always have. Like, I believe that it is a fundamental connection, and I feel like I've gotten apart from that. I have a permaculture certification. Not that I've really done anything with it, but because I really care about that stuff. And so I was like, that's interesting. Like, I'd heard about that peripherally, but the way it's always been portrayed is that, oh my God, he's such a weirdo spiritual thing. And the more and more I'm learning about Charles, despite all of the Camilla, Princess Diana stuff, actually I'm gaining a bit of respect for him as a human being. And I have a lot of criticism against the royal family in general, as well as the monarchy and royalty. And again, like I said, that's not something that I'll get into too much. Obviously, I'm an American. I have very strong views about, sovereignty, personal sovereignty. I don't believe in the authority of government or royalty. I believe that we are all, and we should all be, you know, sovereigns of our own destinies, right? And that we have a personal responsibility to ourselves. Like, that does not mean that you can just go ahead and do anything. That you must demonstrate self-growth, self-awareness, and that is critical. Like, I don't believe in the divine right of kings. I don't believe in the divine right of a president. So, but I look at, a certain amount of people in the royal family, and I'm going to probably be paying attention a little bit more to Charles, just because I find it very interesting that he has stated things like he wants to, and here I am talking about the monarchy, but it's just kind of interesting that he wants to pare down the monarchy. He really wants to kind of very keep it on the even keel. So I think that it'll be interesting to see how his beliefs and his visions um, change and influence. And I'm going to be paying very close attention to how the media portrays this. And this is my main point of this video, because like I said, I'm a very big environmentalist, but over the past several years with the whole climate change argument, I've been really turned off by the narrative. I'm not a real big fan of Greta. I think that they shoved her out there as this poster child, and it was kind of a smarmy narrative that I felt like it was a lot of, shame, shame, shame kind of narrative. And I'm, again, like, I'm not a follower. Okay. I don't go and follow people. I don't go and jump on, bandwagons and movements. And I used to, because that was where I was, in my youth. I'm much less like that. I'm very, like, if I feel as though someone is trying to, like, shove a message in my face and shame me for something, I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying this. I'm sorry. It's like, you're obviously trying to influence me, and I don't like that. You're trying to tell me something, and I'm not responsive to that kind of message. I mean, I would be probably diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder because I'm just like, you know, and people go, "You're so resistant." Like, yeah, because I can pick that up. I'm a very empathic person, and I can pick up when people are trying to influence me or manipulate me. I probably don't really deal with hypnosis very well either. So I really have never been a big Greta fan, and I've seen the environmental movement change over the many decades. And like I stated, when I was in my youth, in my 20s and 30s, I was very, I mean, I still am. I care a lot about the environment. I have ways that I feel about the way human beings live on this planet and how we should be more respectful. I'm being into recycling and, the way systems are and everything. But what I've seen is a lot of corporations like BP now getting into solar and other stuff like that, that I'm very mistrustful of the narratives that are being pushed out about climate change. There was two key things. Several, like maybe 20 years ago, there was a cartoon series that talked about carbon credits. It had another original, very popular video about recycling. And then they did one about carbon credits. I'll have to dig that one up too. And it was basically very critical of carbon credits. And they said, be very careful, because it was a very pro environmental, pro, like, hey, we should really look at these systems, are not working for us. And they did a scathing one on carbon credits. And they said, don't fall for this. This is a scam. And they were talking about the banks and how it just really is not a good way to address climate change. And it was just slam it. And then the other one that I saw, and of course I'm forgetting it now, it'll come to me. But there's been a lot of media PR lately about climate change. And everyone's like, oh, I know what it was that I was going to say. So a recent one was a meme cartoon, and it said, if corporations are telling you telling you to be, whatever, it's you're not, they're not, what was it? I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically, if the corporations are like promoting and advertising these woke messages and everything like that, they're not being revolutionary. You know, it's like it's like, oh wait, they're changing stuff. It's like yes and no, because for years you had the oil and gas and coal companies going along with this, resistance. And then suddenly, oh, well, hey, wow, let's all be on the same page and do this and do that. And yeah, certainly some changes have happened, but I see, like, especially with the solar panel issue. I'm not opposed to solar panels, but I feel like there's certain narratives that are being pushed that are not what they seem. And people are like, oh, yay, look at all these corporations. They're changing and we're shifting and everything. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true, though. They're going to remain in control. And there's this gatekeeping, I think, that they have always done, that when they feel like they can get control of the media and the narrative of something, they're going to do it to their own benefit. So they'll look like, yes, we care about this stuff. And they're controlling what they're putting out. So it'll always be, so there may be a better idea, but because they're saying, okay, well, we're going to get on this bandwagon, they're going to shove out better ideas that are independent, maybe, because they're not going to make any money from that. But if they found a way to control, like, say, solar panels and alternative energy, they're going to be able to control, like, once they get control of that, then they can say, oh, look, we're so green, we're so great, and everything like that. And they're not really. So they just had to position themselves to be able to uh, rework their angle and their message. And that's what they're doing. And they're making it very popular. And suddenly, like, everyone's woke and great about the environment. And I'm like, yeah, I don't trust that. Like, and there's a really great writer that I highly recommend. He's very, I might have to go. I'm hearing cat stuff. I'll start this video later. I need to stop this. I'll call back. Bye. What is going on?